how a community is trying to save their water and wetlands and reduce the impact of an unnecessary freeway. 7 weeks after the testimonies in this film, the Regional Water Quality Control Board sent an unusually stern letter to Caltrans, the California Department of Transportation. The Water Board will not allow work to continue unless Caltrans comes up with a clear and timely mitigation for the destruction of the wetlands that is being caused by their contested 6-mile bypass. To the great pleasure of the community defenders of Little Lake Valley and the forests and salmon streams east of Willits, the Water Board is even suggesting to reduce the size of the northern interchange. What happened here in January 2014 may have had an impact.
My name is Ellen Drell, and I'm here with the Willits Environmental Center and other groups that are involved in the Willits Bypass Project and that have attempted to get Caltrans to reduce the size of this project for many years. We're here in the spirit of, as Steve said, in the spirit of bringing people together and creative thinking. Because we have a criminal situation going on up in Willits right now with the Willits Bypass. I don't know how much you know about the Willits Bypass, but it's basically an ultimate 4-lane freeway that goes from 2 miles south of Willits to about 1 mile north of Willits, to the east of Willits, through Little Lake Valley. And I don't use the word criminal lightly, and it's not hyperbole. The reason I say criminal is 2 things. One, this full-blown 4-lane freeway bypass was sold to the agencies based on fraudulent traffic data and on fraudulent representation of the Federal Highway Administration requirements. That's fact. We have the evidence. The other reason I say it's criminal is because there is no effective mitigation plan in place right now. And I just want to point out these pictures to show you what's going on in Willits. And it's especially ironic and poignant in this epic drought. This is what's happened to the south end of Willits. It's a vast area that's been leveled. Oak woodlands and hillsides and creeks have been turned into this. This is what's happening to Bechtel Creek. Bechtel Creek is one of the most important salmon and steelhead spawning streams that's a tributary to Outlet Creek, which is tributary to the Eel River. It's being stripped of vegetation. And this particular activity was not even clear to us or the agencies that was going to happen. This is Hale Creek, another salmon and steelhead bearing creek stream, actually rerouted in order to accommodate a massive southern interchange that's totally unnecessary. This is the northern interchange, a larger than I-5 size interchange north of Willits that will handle a handful of traffic, at the most, I don't know, probably less than 8,000 vehicles a day. This massive interchange snakes down to this 2-lane Highway 101 just beyond this group of trees. What Caltrans is perpetrating on our valley is nothing short of vandalism. There is a way, even at this late date, to reduce these unnecessary impacts, to protect our watershed, and reduce excessive unnecessary use of water, for one thing. And to assist your staff in finally standing up to Caltrans and demanding that they come to the table and try and salvage the fiasco of this bypass. Thank you.
I'd like to let you know that Condition 5 of the Willits Bypass 401 permit says, and I quote, Caltrans shall submit plans and reports to the satisfaction of the Executive Officer of the Regional Water Board by all dates and timeframes detailed in this order, unless an exception is granted by the Executive Officer, or all bypass construction activities shall cease and desist until the Water Board authorize operations. This condition could not be more clear. Caltrans continually misses deadlines and attempts to provide less mitigation than they originally agreed to. The Water Board has granted numerous exemptions, extensions, and waivers. There is ample justification to call for a cease and desist order. The staff needs your support if they are going to take this kind of action. And we are here to let you know it's time for strength. We are here to clarify the reasons this is not only justified, but necessary. The recent January 15th letter to Caltrans threatens a cease and desist, but stopped short of issuing such an order. We support all the reasons given in the letter, but it does not go far enough. There are more items that need to be added to the list of deliverables, and until they can be delivered, all bypass activities should cease and desist, as stated in Permit Condition 5, not just fill activities. I have a short list. I can talk to you about those later. Mitigation of the damages is delayed because the mitigation plan is not finished and because it is not funded. This delay in mitigation should require more mitigation, or better yet, reduced impacts. Caltrans can reduce the impacts, and a cease and desist order will make it infinitely more attractive. No more exceptions, no more delays. Reduce the impacts, because you can. Thank you.
Dear gentlemen of the North Coast Regional Water Quality Board, my name is Sarah Gresky. My husband and I manage a small organic farm with gardens, orchards, community-supported goat dairy, and a potato farming project. We moved to this area 8 years ago to contribute to the inspiring efforts in Willits to develop a more sustainable local economy and build a stronger, more diverse local food shed. We're now seeing all of this hard work and community aspiration to build a more resilient local economy and self-sufficient food system threatened by the construction of Caltrans bypass and its impacts to our water resources. It appears that all the impacts of the Caltrans bypass may be further exacerbated by the drought conditions. Let me connect a few of these dotted lines. And let me point out, because Ellen didn't have a chance, this picture right here is what the wetlands looks like right now with 55,000 wick drains. This is a time when there's supposed to be no net loss of wetlands in this state. Caltrans now owns more than 2,000 acres of Little Lake Valley due to an unprecedented taxpayer-sponsored buying spree for a so-called mitigation plan that remains unimplemented today, as you know. Approximately, this means 1/3 of Little Lake Valley is now owned by Caltrans, crowding out the possibility of local agriculture. At a time when the state is supposed to be implementing a no net loss of wetlands mandate, we're watching the largest wetlands fill operation since World War II in our backyards. This is what it looks like. The city of Willits has now issued a Stage 5 water emergency. In order to provide basic water resources to our residents, the city must now develop and pump new wells drawing on the valley aquifer. Meanwhile, Caltrans has sunk these 55,000 wick drains to dry out and compress 60 acres of wetlands in our valley to build an unnecessary freeway. This wetlands fill operation will impede the recharge into the valley aquifer, and this is the very same aquifer that the city must now draw on to meet the basic needs of residents, and the very same aquifer that we as farmers rely on to grow the food for the residents of our valley, for an unnecessary freeway. Caltrans has withdrawn 8 million gallons of water from our watershed in the first year of construction. Meanwhile, this is one example, a local farm-to-table program at Brookside School that provides fresh produce to the school lunch program has been canceled due to lack of water. So we're here today to ask you to do the right thing. No more exemptions, no more extensions, no more waivers, no more tolerance of non-compliance and unmet conditions. Please provide the mandate and support for your staff to immediately issue a cease and desist order to Caltrans. As you know, there are many bypass construction options that people sitting in this room who came here today have spent decades trying to convince Caltrans to implement. But still, today, there are options that can reduce these impacts. And Madge, our city councilman, will address them now. So we're asking for a cease and desist order immediately in order to support the bypass scale-back proposal that you will hear about next.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Madge Strong. I represent Willits Economic Localization. I'm a member of other organizations. I'm also on the Willits City Council. North of Willits is a 2-lane highway, and the traffic on it looks like that during rush hour. The Caltrans numbers say about 8,000 vehicles per day on that 2-lane highway north of Willits, and actually at least a quarter of those are bound in and out of Willits rather than traffic that would use the bypass. So in order to justify a 4-lane freeway, Caltrans did a lot of creative things. They jimmied the traffic projections very massively. One of the things they did is they assumed 2% growth rate every single year. There's actually been, over a 20-year period, 0% growth rate. And then the biggest thing that they did is that they misrepresented the Federal Highway Administration claiming that they required them to build at this quote-unquote level of service and had to have a 4-lane freeway. On the basis of those misrepresentations, your agency and others were convinced to allow this 4-lane design to go ahead. It was all a lie. The most important damage that at this point hasn't all been done yet is the northern interchange. The lower one is what Caltrans is proposing, 40 acres of wetland fill just for this northern interchange, I-5 style, and it's 2 lanes going into 2 lanes. I will give you copies of that illustration, and I wanted to say that a cease and desist order, which is more than justified for all sorts of other reasons, will force Caltrans to the table to reduce the impacts. Thank you.
Will perish. In the case of several of us, we've taken actions in the northern Little Lake Valley wetlands, which are being subject to the largest wetlands destruction of any project in Northern California in the last 50 years in terms of acreage. Almost 90 acres of wetlands are being destroyed. This is in the headwaters area of Outlet Creek, which is the largest remaining coho salmon run in the state of California. Biologists are now projecting that coho salmon, the Central Coast coho salmon, which extend from southern Humboldt County down to Santa Cruz County, are on the verge of going extinct.
The City of Willits declared a Stage 5 water emergency and has instituted mandatory reduction in water use for both residents and businesses. Businesses in Willits are being asked to reduce water by 35%, and this has a significant impact on the financial health of these local businesses. We must sacrifice, while Caltrans gets the green light to take unlimited, vast amounts of our water. How can this be possible? This water is our water. This is our life. Not only is this oversized project draining 82 acres of wetlands during a record-breaking statewide drought, but construction of the 5 miles of elevated embankment will require thousands of gallons of water per hour per day throughout the construction season to compact the fill and to provide dust control. Where will this water come from? Well, Caltrans plans to get it from Willits Sewer Plant and from groundwater wells within the groundwater basin of Willits, the very water that residents and businesses are trying so desperately to conserve.
Your staff has presented a list of violations, but they're not authorized to make policy decisions. Only you are. And you, as well as we, have been made fools by Caltrans. They promised they would perform mitigations for loss of the wetlands. Caltrans has no money to do so. Your integrity as the agency in the state that protects water has been made foolish by a lie, and you have ample reason to cease and desist what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to talk to you about the mitigation, which has been frequently mentioned as not going forward as it should, despite promises by Caltrans. They're delaying this mitigation every chance they get, and they're destroying the wetlands in the meantime. This is the opportunity for Caltrans to lessen these impacts. When Caltrans requests an exemption to do less mitigation, it's an opportunity for the Water Board to enforce the cease and desist as put forth in Condition 5. The Clean Water Act calls for avoidance before mitigation. Now's the time for the Water Board to require a plan to reduce the impact at the northern interchange from 40 acres of wetlands destruction to 10 acres before Caltrans proceeds with construction in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Aurora O'Greenfield. I'm an independent studies student at Willits Charter School, so I'm happy I could make it to represent my friends and peers in Willits. Willits is one of the hardest hit cities in California by the drought. We only have 80 days of water left at conservation use. All of the water-efficient washing machines in California can't make up for the millions of gallons drawn to use for the bypass. And if this drought is our Hurricane Sandy, this is us pulling together. Please take immediate and drastic actions against Caltrans, such as requesting the removing of wick drains and a cease and desist. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm a resident of Willits, mother of 5 kids. I want to say you all could be heroes of the hour. We must be wise enough to take seriously the words spoken by our governor just the other day in his, I believe, State of the State. Right now, it is imperative that we do everything possible to mitigate the effects of the drought. We also need wetlands and watershed restoration. So you can only imagine the very worst thing we could possibly do is ruin one of the last remaining wetlands here. Please call for a cease and desist. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Reiser-Jevons. I have lived in Willits for over 20 years. During the summertime, Caltrans illegally trucked in truckload after truckload and tons of fill without your approval. All along the way, Caltrans has failed to follow state and federal law. They have failed to follow the permits granted by the Water Board and other government agencies, and they have failed to abide by even their own contracts. The destruction is so big, it is way over their own ability to manage and mitigate. So they haven't. So they keep asking for exceptions and extensions, and so far these have been inexplicably granted. Why? These exceptions are not helping California, they are not helping the watershed, the environment, the whole ecosystem, or the community that requires that water and wetlands for its current and future survival. So now we have a huge, unnecessary project that has no meaningful or helpful mitigation to offset the devastating destruction it is causing, and inadequate funding even for its own inadequate mitigation. It is its own worst-case scenario. It is time to think and act anew. I am calling on you to take this important opportunity to correct this situation. Under the current circumstances, it is unconscionable for the project to continue. The Water Board can and should direct your staff to order a cease and desist order and immediately suspend the permits for the Willits bypass. If the project were to rationally reassess and eventually continue, at least the 40-acre northern interchange should be downsized to simultaneously save 30 acres of precious wetlands and many millions of gallons of water and many millions of taxpayer dollars. Caltrans must actually listen to the communities they are impacting. They haven't listened to us at all. And allow wise environmental leaders to help devise solutions, including mitigations, that are more beneficial to all.
And then you need to finish up.
Let us turn this disastrous situation into one that takes into account the current realities. You, the Water Board, have the power to do this. This is your job. Now is the time. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.